Welcome to another episode on Take a Seat. This is a channel that we've created to introduce entrepreneurs to yourself. We want to conversate with top influencers and business people. They say your network is your net worth. And sometimes you say, well, Sean, we don't have that opportunity. Well, I'm inviting you to take a seat with us and see some of these conversations that you should be listening to and the environment you should be surrounding yourself with. We've had some fantastic guests. We've had Samuel Leeds, Jason Patterson, the Short Lease King, Property by Kazi, and even Emmanuel Asekio. So I hope you enjoyed today because we've got another gem of a guest. We're actually celebrating today also because we've reached our 10th podcast. At the start of this journey, when I was my first podcast, I was just aiming for my first 10. I was like, where am I going to get these guests from? But today we're here. We're on the 10th episode. And now I'm concentrating, how do I get to the 100th? So if that's one thing that you guys can take away is always keep walking, keep moving, keep saying, what's my next goal? And never be satisfied and never just get comfortable. So today's guest is, you know him as Conversation of Money. It's Peter Komolafe. Welcome, Peter.
Man, thank you so much for having me. And I just want to resonate with what you just said there. Like, I think in life, sometimes we get too busy with like momentum moving forward and we forget to kind of take a look back of how many steps we have taken. And it does start with one step and it leads into 10, 20, 30, 40. And that's a principle in life that I really do believe in. You've got to stop, pause, take stock of where you are, look back, appreciate it, and, go again.
Definitely. I mean, life is a journey, and sometimes we just have to remember to enjoy the journey also.
That is true. You know what? And I think that's a particularly pertinent point for the social media age, because everyone's obsessed with getting to the destination. And like, the destination isn't actually the prize. That isn't where you grow, where you learn, where you achieve things. Like, the destination is the achievement.
Yes.
But there's so much growth and so much to learn on the journey there that actually it's character building. It's personality building. You become a person. You learn so much about yourself by enjoying the journey.
Definitely. It's like pieces of puzzle putting you together, isn't it? And I actually, I hope this is not negative, but sometimes when I reach the end of a journey, it's not as fun anymore.
You feel deflated. Yeah.
It's like when I was in McDonald's, for example, I reached to a manager status, and then I could have went to store manager, regional, but it's like you get to a position where it's like there's not much growth like of me learning right now. It's going a little bit sideways and just knowing a little bit more. When I started in Barclays and I was a cashier, but then I got to a B5 role, and you're kind of at the top of retail banking. Yes, you can go a little bit further, but it just felt like, right, I've got to a really good money bracket, and this it's not that challenging no more.
That's normal though. That's actually natural human behavior, because if you aim for something, you get there, you're kind of like, okay, what's next?
Yes.
And this speaks to the wider conversation of, life isn't necessarily about achieving specific things or getting specific. So for example, luxury things, cars, Rolexes, right? Watches, whatever. The minute you buy that thing, it's like, oh, I've got it now. It loses its value because it doesn't feel as aspirational as it was. And as human beings, that is a natural thing that we all go through. We always constantly need to have goals, especially if you're a progressive person. You need to have goals that you're chasing. And I would say that's probably been one of my, it can be positive and negative. I see the positive and the negative in what I do. And I'm extremely aware of the negative impact that it has, because my partner always goes, well, when is enough? And that is always the question. When is enough? Like, you can scale a mountain, but most of the guys who climb Mount Everest are like, okay, what next? They want to go scale another one, It's human behavior, it's human psychology.
Definitely. It's all about when you want to succeed in life, you just want to just keep doing better. So it's not just concentration on one thing, because sometimes when you just concentrate on that one thing, if it either works or it doesn't, either way, I feel that it could crush you, because like from the age of 13, all I ever wanted to do was become a millionaire. And I could have easily not got there as well, and that could have said, oh, life didn't work out for me. But life did also work out for me, and I hope this again isn't negative, but by 26 I reached millionaire status. My accountant goes, Sean, you've got 4 properties, they're worth more than 250, you're a millionaire. I'm like, I almost hit the lowest point.
Right. Okay. So this is one thing I would want to ask you, because a lot of
Yes.
people say this, and when I was advising, clients would say this. How did it feel when you got there?
It felt that I didn't have any sort of worth anymore, because it was
Right.
like my whole life was to make my dad proud and tell him that I'm a millionaire and I've
Yeah.
achieved it. But then it's like, so what's my purpose now?
Yeah.
It was the lowest point,
Yeah.
because it was like looking around and going, well, I can't tell anybody about this, because when you tell them you're showing off,
Yeah. Yeah.
no one would really be happy for you,
Yeah.
because it's not making a
Some
difference
people
to their
don't
life.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're having a conversation by yourself, and really actually being a millionaire on paper is not actually making you that rich as well, especially when it's in property.
Yeah.
It means maybe 4,000 to 5,000 a month.
Yeah.
And that's not, Bugatti money really, is it?
Well, this is
You know?
interesting actually, because that's where you get into a different conversation around wealth, right? So you've got asset wealth, so property wealth, and then you've got liquid wealth. And liquid wealth is money, cash in the bank.
Yes.
It's funny, you hear the conversations about Elon Musk, right? People taking a piss out of him because, he's lost so much money. I think he's lost the most amount of money in record time possible. It's like when you look at the reality of it all, he doesn't have all that money sat in his bank account. This is value that is tied up in all of the businesses that, so Tesla and all the other endeavors, right? So actually, when you look at the stock market, share prices go up and go down every single day. He doesn't have any control over that. Yes, he's focusing on Twitter, and that's been a negative thing for the, I guess, perception of how well Tesla's going to do, besides the fact that actually they're growing year on year. But it's not liquid cash. So he's not actually lost it, because it's not money in the bank. And I think there is a real big confusion on social media over what wealth actually is. Wealth in assets, wealth in cash. Like a lot of wealthy people, the reason why they don't pay any tax is because they leverage the asset wealth for income, which they pay no tax on because it's a loan, it's leveraged against it. And these are all little clever little things that ordinary people, like, trust me, if it wasn't for my career in financial services, I wouldn't understand how half of this stuff even works. It's pretty nuts what we don't know.
Definitely. So here's a quick question for you. What's the difference between rich and wealthy?
Wealthy for me is all about assets. Most wealthy people that I know have got assets. So they'll have property portfolio, for example, or they have businesses, right? It's assets. And these assets are income producing. So they will appreciate in value, will generate cash flow, right? That's what wealth is all about.
Definitely.
Rich is about, I guess, you could tie it to a level of income, right? You could definitely tie it to a level of income, but rich is not the same thing as wealth. Wealth is all about, at wealth, you have the ability to make choices out of a place of freedom. You can do that when you're rich as well, but it's slightly different. And I think in society today, this is my firm belief anyway. Look, money is a very, very important topic. We need it for anything that we want to do in life. If you want to, retire and spend 2 days just working part-time or spending time with your family, if you just want to go traveling, you're going to need money for that. I'm really big on the fact that it's really important for us to understand the basics behind all of that stuff. If you can't budget 100 quid, you're never going to budget 10 grand a month.
It's all about the start process.
Exactly.
The seed you sow.
Absolutely.
To see how it's going to grow in the future. And this is a challenge that I currently face. So people call me, Sean, you're old school. Sean, you're old money. You're not in time. You're not in with the time.
Do you know why they say that?
You don't know, with crypto and all of this and new technology. Personally, I believe that all business is exactly the same. Yes, there's some nuts and bolts that change, but you just plug it into your formula.
Yeah.
But it's because I'm not also showing off with a Ferrari. I'm not got, the top watches and wearing Gucci, Armani all the time. I'm actually really happy just having my own branded top on because I believe confidence comes from within. I know what I provide when I walk into a room. I know what my value is. I know what value I can give to another person. And that's what I'm trying to say to people is that's what real value is.
So this is the thing though, right? And this is the thing that drives me crazy on social media. Why is it that we feel as though, and I've fallen into this trap myself, we fall into this trap of we have to be adorned in a certain way in order for our value to be evident to others. So it's kind of like putting a really, really nice kind of like facade on the outside. But I always say, well, what's the substance behind it? When you walk into a room, first impressions count. They do. But actually, it's more about the substance and the value, your skill set, your experience, what you can deliver, that means the most. And I think that to a certain extent we are moving away from this whole thing of, fake it till you make it. You've got to be seen to have this in order to do that. I don't think that's necessarily true. And I think we need to make sure that, younger kids coming behind us know that it's okay to be you. It's okay to not have to front. Like, yeah, you can have Rolex and drive a nice car, but do that because you want it, not because, this will make me look good in a business meeting or it's going to impress my friends. I think it's just the wrong starting point.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, these days you look at YouTube and you see young boys in a T-shirt and they're multimillionaires.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. Definitely, none of these material items should mean status. And if you're moving around in a room, you shouldn't be looking at who's got the best clothes on. Sometimes, like, I get into a lot of rooms and invited to a lot of places. Recently, I got invited to a Lamborghini sort of party around Christmas time. A friend of a friend invited me, part of the same circle. And there was this lady walking around. Her husband was very humble, once you get to a certain level of wealth, you don't really talk about money. But the wife was more like, yeah, we're going to get a house here and one in Dubai and we're going to do this and that. I was like, that's great. Dubai's a really nice place. Been on holiday a few times. And it's just like she's going a step further. And so what car do you drive? And I was just a bit like, I drive a normal car. I've got a Range Rover outside and I've got another convertible. But I just went, I've got a normal car.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Within 5 minutes, she was gone.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm happy that that's how you see what someone's real personality is like. I don't want you to judge me about how much money I have. I'm a human being. I have feelings. What value do I bring to you? Or maybe if I was surrounded around your children, because that's who I want surrounded by me and my family in the future is if you can't be real with me, then what good are you to me or my family?
100%.
Would I even trust my children next to you?
100%.
I don't want that energy. I don't care what you drive because you're going to have a different, sort of, you're going to pass on that sort of energy onto, us. And I don't want that.
Yeah. You know what? There is a saying, true wealth is silent.
Yes.
And it's true.
Yes.
And there's a great meme that was going on social media, maybe like 3-4 years ago now. It's quite an old one, right? But they had like Warren Buffett and they had Bill Gates standing each other side by side in a picture. And the caption just said, not a Gucci belt inside.
Yeah.
And it's true because when you're at that level, like which one of those tech millionaires, run around in like designer gear? It's like jeans, T-shirt, 'cause it's simple. They don't have to put a lot of thought into it. It makes them more efficient. But I can bet you top dollar they probably have a nice watch collection somewhere. They've got really nice, beautiful properties and stuff. But they're driven by purpose, right? The purpose is to build a business that changes the world, that employs people and actually delivers value. And I think what I've learned, and it definitely drives everything that I do across social media and even some of the stuff I'm doing on media now, you have to be purpose driven. And it doesn't matter whether your purpose is to, I don't know, start a food truck that has the best tacos in your postcode, right? Be purpose driven. And through my career, I know that money is a byproduct of good work. If you focus on the good work driven by purpose, money will come as a result. If you're chasing money, it's the wrong place to start, because then especially if you're in business, you're starting from the point of, okay, I've got these overheads I need to make. I've got this, I've got to pay my rent, pay for my car, all this stuff that probably you can't even afford. You're putting yourself under financial pressure. Whereas if you just focus on the fact of, right, how do I deliver the best value to my people? Customers will come and find you. Opportunities will come and find you. And that's hard to do because you need to have a good financial footing. You need to understand how to operate with money. But I think for me, that has definitely worked throughout my career and even to what I'm doing now and on social media. I've been on social media now for 3 years.
Wow.
It's been an amazing journey.
But you're progressing and we can see you coming up, definitely. To you, you're chipping away at that tree. But when we're watching from the outside, we're seeing you come up the ranks, and
trust me, it doesn't feel like
it sometimes feels like
this
watching.
It's hard work, man. It really, really is, and it's stressful. And I think that's the side of entrepreneurship that sometimes isn't really spoken about online enough, anywhere near enough. It's really, really hard. I did a poll on Instagram a few weeks ago and asked, would you rather earn £50,000 a year, self-employed entrepreneur, or would you rather earn £50,000 a year employed? And it was very, very interesting to see a lot of people went for the self-employed side. And I've not had the conversation yet on my podcast, but I want to get into that conversation a little bit more, because the biggest reason that most people gave was freedom and autonomy. And that's big, really, really big. But at what cost? How much freedom do you get? How much autonomy do you get in the entrepreneurial space? I get some, and it doesn't help that I'm a workaholic. I have to constantly be working, but it's hard work. But one thing I will say is it is so much more rewarding when you're doing something off your own back, building your own brand for your own benefit, as opposed to being in a 9-to-5, 100%.
I suppose they say when you love what you do, it never feels like work also.
Yeah.
So you're more motivated and inspired to do what you really like to do. So, just imagine you're a jewelry maker and you love making jewelry. Are you really going to be clock watching and saying, it's 5 o'clock now, I've got to clock off? You're going to, no, I want to finish this, or I'm going to pick this up on the weekend. And I think that's one of the main difference makers, rather than I'm at work, I'm getting that same salary, but he's telling me what to do and he's monitoring me and seeing my sales. I can actually get more growth if he got off my back and let me progress. And there might not be no sales right now, but I'm making such good relationships with other people right now, and that's going to come back in folds. Maybe it would work, but your manager's got his own experiences. He's not in your head, he's only been taught a certain way, and maybe in your head you can perform a lot better than how he's even coaching you. Even though he might have better skills right now, you might have better tools in your head.
Yeah.
So I think, when you're self-employed, you have that freedom to grab the reins and, push the car as fast as you want, slow it down, go left or right. And you're actually accountable for all your actions.
Yeah.
So if it didn't go correctly, yes, there is a certain failure, but that failure, depending on how you take failure...
Well, is it really a failure?
Because exactly, I think you take it as a lesson.
Yeah, there's always something to learn, right? And the beautiful thing is, for kids these days, social media is a gift. If someone said to me when I was in, golden handcuffs in corporate land, you'll be able to earn pretty good money, and it's all going to be based off a YouTube channel and a podcast, I'd be like, nah, no way. But it's true. And in building your own brand, as long as you stay true to yourself, and this is why it's so important not to focus on the money. If you stay true to yourself and you are very, very clear on your purpose. So, for example, what I do is it's rooted in a couple of things. First and foremost, my journey and my own experience. Yes. So I was fostered from 3 months to 8 years old.
Yes. So let's pause it there a second. Today you are, how old are you now?
I'm 43 now.
43, still very young, still look very beautiful.
That's right.
So let's delve into this. Let's find out, how did Peter start off? Tell us from the early years, as you're telling us. We want to know all the way until you got into corporate world, sort of. Yeah. Tell us the journey behind it.
Yeah. So, right, back in the day, so in the 70s, it was very, very common for Nigerians to come over, and they'll come and work, and they'll make a load of money, send money home, build homes, all that kind of stuff. So my parents came over in the early 1970s, I think 74, 75, they came over to the UK. So bear in mind that they had 3 boys already. They came over to work, study, and basically just make some money and get some roots back home, build a property and all that kind of stuff, right? They had me in 79. Now, I always say that I was a mistake, because in the end, they called me Peter, but our second born is also named Peter. So we had 2 Petes in the family, Big Pete, Little Pete. But because my parents were working, they were studying and working, they were working 3-4 jobs each and studying.
So they couldn't come up with another name.
Yeah. Well, you would think that they would do, right? I mean, I'll come to this in a minute, but imagine my surprise when I'm 8 years old. I meet my other brother, and it's he's also Peter, and I'm like, what's going on here? Type thing. But yeah, I mean, look, they were working and studying. They couldn't really, they couldn't afford to give up a job. So back then it was very, very common. What they used to do is they'll put an ad in the newspaper saying we're looking for foster parents to look after our kid. And then people will respond. They go and have a look at the family, and then they just go drop the baby there. And that's essentially what happened with me. So
from what age?
3 months.
3 months. Oh, wow.
So I was really, really lucky with the family that I got. Sid and Sylvia Saunders in Hastings. They looked after me really, really well. But there were kids who were from the same kind of area, living on the same street, who got fed cat food, dog food, like abused, really, really bad, like really, really bad. And I was so fortunate. But I was with them from 3 months to 8 years old because in 88, my mom and dad had this great idea of, he's not met the family in Nigeria. They'd gone back in 85. Let's get him over to Nigeria and we can come and meet his brothers and stuff. And they lied to me, said, "Oh, you're going for a 2-week holiday." In London, by the way. So I used to see my parents during that 8-year stint every summer for 2 weeks.
So how did that work, like with your foster parents and your actual parents? Did you know what was happening at the time? Did you know who your real parents were? Or?
I knew who my real parents were because I would see them once a year in the summer. I'll go stay with them for 2 weeks in the summer. That was the only interactions that I had with my real parents.
What was the difference in environment?
I didn't know them, right? So for me, in my head, so bear it in mind, from 3 months, right, I'm with like this white family. They're my mom and dad in my head. Then these people would just come along, like ever so often, come and visit for like a day, or I'd go to London and stay with them for 2 weeks. So imagine that, right? You're 4, 5, 6 years old. You're always around these people every single day. They send you to school. They do everything. Then some people buck up and it's like, who are you guys? Oh, that's your mum and dad. And it's like, well, no, you're my mum and dad. It's like, but that's your real mum and dad. We're your foster parents. And I'm like,
Right.
it doesn't compute.
Right. Do you know, I don't know if you've read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any sort of emotions that were sort of going on with you in terms of you saw one family do certain things and another family do a certain thing? Did you pick up on any differences or made you think openly or differently? Was that any of the case when you met both parents?
I always found it weird, the dynamic, because like I was fostered by an English family, but obviously my parents are Nigerian. Yeah. So traditionally and culturally, very, very different. The food we were eating, very, very different. The conversations, the atmosphere, the energy in the house was very, very different when I stayed with them. It was alien, effectively. And to think that you're plucked from your normal environment into that for 2 weeks, it's like, I can't wait to get the fuck out of it, to be honest, a lot of the time. So it was really, really weird trying to kind of make sense of that as a kid, because it was like, I know that they're my real parents, but I didn't feel any affinity with them because I didn't know them. I literally didn't know them. I'd see you for 2 weeks every single year, maybe for a couple of hours if you ever pop down, and that was very, very seldom. So it's like, these people are my real parents. My foster parents are my real parents. And then at 8 years old to be told, you're going to London for that 2 week summer break, then to be put on a plane to go over to Nigeria, and they said it's going to be for 2 weeks. Right. It ends up being 10 years. Wow. To say that I kind of had a little bit of resentment for them would be an understatement. I hated it. All of it, really, to be honest. But at the same time, I'm fortunate because it gave me a different perspective on life. In Nigeria, we didn't have any running water. We had no electricity. We didn't know half the time where our next meal was coming from. Like, we were poor. We were dirt poor. Kind of there. Wow. And it made me realize that actually in this country, certainly when I started getting to like 16, 17, 18, because I used to look out the window and where we lived, it used to be on the flight path. So I'd see British Airways flights going into Lagos International Airport, Muritala Airport, and I used to visualize myself. I need to get on a plane to get back into the UK and all that kind of stuff. And my dad was always like, you're going to have so many opportunities out there that when the day comes, you need to be ready. So I always had that drilled into me when I was like 15. I think they realized that they made a mistake bringing me over there probably when I was about 12-ish. So bear in mind, I went when I was 8. They realized 4 years later that actually we fucked this up because I refused to learn the language, first and foremost. That was my one way of rebelling. I didn't want to be there. I was forced. I couldn't do anything. I'm 12. What am I going to do? I can't run away from home. I can't go to the embassy and be like, oh, save me. So I didn't learn the language. And they realized that they messed up and they kind of were like, you've got opportunity in the UK. When you do go back there, you want to make sure that, you've got your head on straight, because, you'll be able to do much, much better than you are here. And that stays with me. It has always stayed with me all the way through my career. Opportunity is everything.
Do you think that makes you a stronger person because you did things that you didn't want to do, but you had to make it work, for the time you was over there? There's a lot of things right now, like when you're working, and what separates people from doing well and not so well is the people who go that extra mile, even though they don't want to. It's like people saying, how do I get a six-pack? It's like, well, you bloody got to work hard for it, You got to do what everyone else is prepared not to do. You got to eat these foods that no one else wants to. And it is certain people have that sort of resilience and that mental strength, power. Do you think it a little bit came from that sort of situation as well for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, if I go back to those days, I finished secondary school when I was like 16. I did sciences. I did really, really well in school. The one thing that I didn't do well in was probably maths. I scraped past maths, but physics, chemistry, I've loved it. I've got sickle cell anemia, so my dad was like, if you be a medical doctor, research a cure for sickle cell anemia, right? So that was the whole goal. One thing that it did was it definitely gave me this mindset of you're in control of what happens. So when I was like 16, 17, I was writing adverts and projects, right? So me and my friend Larry, we did an advert for UNICEF in Nigeria, dropped it off and all that kind of stuff. We wrote a project called African Campus. What we wrote back then, so bear in mind, I was 16 years old. That project, it doesn't exist still. So we were writing stuff. And back then you didn't have an iPhone. Like you would go to the library, research stuff. Yep. It meant that in my head, it fed a lot of creativity. Like I've got to do something to get out of this situation, to be creative, to make the most of opportunity. We were designing cars. We were drawing all sorts of stuff. We sent designs into Honda. We got letters back saying this is a great design, tips, and we'd love to sponsor you for this and sponsor you for that. So I think it's given me an outlook on life in terms of like, you are in control and you need to be driven and not squander opportunity. And I think because I've seen both sides of life, I'm very, very appreciative of the fact that people may not think it. We've got it sweet in the UK. And it's not perfect, don't get me wrong, but we've got it sweet. When you've got no running water, no electric, no benefits from any government, you're on your own. You figure out how to make things work.
You find how to survive. I had a little similar sort of experience, especially during summer holidays. My dad thought it was a great idea to go to India and live like Indians, literally. So my granddad had this big building. It was rented at the bottom, but the first and sort of open top floor never rented. It was always for my granddad to go back and stay there, etc. He bought it in the 80s, for example. We went there, and the first day I remember opening, we stayed with my granddad's brother's house, and then my cousin, uncles, and they were like, yep, that's where you're going to stay. There's some beds and stuff in there. So we opened it, and the first thing you do is you see rat shit everywhere. And it's like, hey, I'm not staying here because I'm from clean England and we don't do this. Like, no worries. And the fleet of ladies come in with these straws that were made into a broom. They get down squatting. Then the bleach came out and they started cleaning it. And they go, look, it's all real nice and clean. The place where you were supposed to be cooking, it had one little stove there. And it was just like, even that was covered. And they were like, no, it's all clean now. And they were like, yeah, you can even have a cook if you want to come and help you. And 7 o'clock would come in the morning and it's like, Sean, Dad, go and get the eggs and bread. And I was like, oh, this ain't no holiday. So then you go to the front and you get these little square little breads, and then the eggs were just like, how many do you want? And they would put it in a bag. It was no box or nothing like that. You'd walk and it was all fuming, dusty, cars going all different directions. First 2 weeks were actually okay because you felt like a film star. You'd go there and they were like, oh, this guy's from England. Oh, hello, etc. And then it would almost be like after 2 weeks, I've gone really, really tanned. I've got mosquito bitten everywhere. So I almost looked like somebody who was living there, that if I just probably squatted at the end of the road, they probably thought I was a beggar almost. But it's funny how people look at you over there. They look at you, go, hey, move,
Yeah.
move, get out of the way. Like,
Yeah.
you know, who are you? What are you? Like, you know, and I'm like, hey, hang on, I have a value.
Yeah.
And over there, they don't have no value for life.
Yeah. So imagine, so bearing in mind, I went there at 8 years old and I spoke like this, right? Then they enrolled me in school. So I'm this kid. And one of the things, I remember this so clear. They said, look, kids can be a little bit mean. So if they do certain hand gestures, just be careful. And they gave me like 3 or 4 hand gestures. One of them was that. If they do that to you, like, just be careful, right? Because that is like a cuss word. Like, you just want to avoid them. So I speak like this. They don't, some of them spoke English, but I had a British accent. So I'm this weird, like, kid that looks like them, speaks very, very differently. And it's like, it's really, really weird to describe. Imagine just being sorely out of place, but almost being able to blend in because you look the same, but you're not the same. And that kind of attention was just weird. And it took a lot of adjustment because, I don't know, in the UK, like back then, you know, this was, you know, what, in the 80s, early 80s, there were only 2 black kids in the school that I went to, Hollington Junior. And the other guy was much, much older. I would see him at the other end of the playground, like on break. And we would just look at each other. That was it. I had kids call me monkey and do all this like horrible stuff, right? Then to be in a situation where it's like, oh, we all look the same. So that's not an issue. But actually, nah, you speak differently. And they think, oh, you're rich. You must be loaded. And it's like, no, we're not. And later on, I started to kind of recognize, as kids do, he's got nicer trainers than I have. Like, why am I've got hand-me-downs. Like, what's going on? So I speak like this. It didn't stack up in my head. Like, I speak like this. People think I'm special, but actually, I've got worse shoes on than this dude over here. Yeah. And I remember asking my mum and dad, I said, are we poor? And they just laughed. And that was probably one of the first moments where I was like, okay, something doesn't quite stack up here. And it embedded a scarcity mindset, and that impacted me massively later on when I started working in Canary Wharf and earning good money, because that stuff stays with you. It does.
Yeah, I think like the younger experiences really does shape you. I think sometimes when you have it easy, younger, I've personally seen around my friend circle that when they've had their Reeboks and their, you know, Nikes, it's like the hunger is not as much. Where when I was wearing high-tech trainers, and, you know, my dad was cutting my hair and sharing dad's clothes on school trips just because it was a better name than dad could have it. And even that was moody, you know. Yeah. It was like the hunger is different because it almost feels like, hey, I know I'm better than this and I need to prove it. And sometimes even up until the age of 30, 6, 7 years ago, I said to myself, you know, I have to prove that I'm worth more than this, even though kids at the time, they forget. They forget how they were. Yeah. They forget they called you fat boy and, you know, he's the funny one, or all of them names that they called. But sometimes some of these things stay with you and you're consistently working in your own head to try and make yourself better, to say, hey, look, I made it. Yeah. And that drive stays with you. Whereas they normally kind of, even when they get the top grades, is they don't have that drive anymore. Yeah. You know, I don't know if you noticed that. 100%.
I mean, look, through all of my journey, I mean, like, I've turned out okay. The journey's been pretty sweet for me. I mean, look, I went back there. I came back when I was like 17, just turning 18. And because obviously my parents were poor, all they gave me to come back with was 50 quid. Now, bearing in mind...
So what happened there? You had 50 quid in your hand. How did you get your accommodation and...
Right.
How did that
This is what happened, right? So after years of them realising that we messed this up, they were like, okay, we need to get him back to the UK. So I finished secondary school and literally I spent 2 years just in this house in the middle of the bush watching these planes fly over. And my dad was like, okay, right, we need to see what we can do. We need to get him back over. They managed to get enough money aside to get me a ticket back. And all they could give me was 50 quid. So my foster parents, who found out, I only found this out like 2 years ago. My foster parents didn't know what happened to me. So when I was taken to this 2-week holiday in London, they thought I was coming back. I didn't come back after 3-4 weeks. They're like, what the fuck? What's going on?
On?
Where is he? Is he dead? Is he being kidnapped? They then found out from somebody else that he's in Nigeria. So I'm there for 10 years. They didn't hear a peep from me.
Wow.
So my dad was like, there you go, that's 50 quid. Go back to your foster parents.
Like it's that easy.
Right? So me, I'm 17, 18. I'm like, finally, I can get on one of those freaking planes and just get out of it, right? I'm excited.
Wow.
Get back, Heathrow, train down to Hastings, taxi to where my foster parents lived, knock on the door, nothing.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay. Now I started panicking. Are they there? Have they moved? What's happened? What am I going to do? Because I didn't think about any of this stuff. I'm like, I'm getting out of here. I'm going back to the UK. Luckily, they still lived there. They took me in for like 2 weeks and they were really, really gracious. And you can imagine, like, it was a shock.
Yeah.
They not see me for 10 years. Then all of a sudden, I rock up back on their doorstep like, I need your help.
And you're basically a man now.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Literally, when I was 17, 18, mate, I was like 5'5".
Okay.
I looked 12 years old.
Okay.
Literally, I was still pretty much a boy, like a baby at that point. But and my foster parents aren't from a wealthy family. They are lower class, really low income. But they took me in, and they're the ones who helped me get kind of registered, get my first job.
Wow.
And that literally I was out from there pretty much. And as a consequence of meeting the wrong people, not really knowing how the system works and how to build rapport with people, I'm like, mate, trust me. I finished school. I was in a house for 2 years. I had 0 friends. I had no social interaction skills, nothing.
Would you say you was a bit antisocial, hard to talk to people, or?
I didn't know how to interact with people.
Right.
So for me, it was like, okay, what I was taught and what I observed was when older people speak to you, you listen to what they say, you don't talk back, right? You do what you're asked and that's it. You'll be sweet. I had no friends, pretty much, apart from one guy who's Larry, who's here in the UK now, who I used to do the stuff with. Other than that, no other social interaction. So now I'm back over here and I'm like, okay, you're on your own, doing flat shares with people. I have no idea how any of this stuff works. Had no idea about money, of all things. A lot of things happen. I ended up homeless. On the streets.
Wow.
Ended up bouncing around hostels, on benefits. It wasn't the best. And I can look back on it now and smile and be like, that was character building, because it gave me even more metal to the drive that I already had from being like, yo, I need to get back to the UK. But even when I was homeless, sleeping on the streets, in my head, I was like, it's better than being over in Nigeria where I've got no opportunity. Okay. Things can only get better here because there's opportunity here. And that was really that's always been my driving force. There were opportunities, massive opportunities at our disposal. And in my head, I was like, I've got 3 older brothers who don't have UK passports. I mean, imagine, I was born in 79.
Wow.
And just because my parents just happened to have me here, I have a UK passport and British citizenship. I didn't do anything for that. That's just luck. It's happenstance.
Definitely. I mean, check the mindset. You're homeless and you're already looking at the glass half full.
Yeah, you have to.
You're saying, well, it's better than being over there because you've had that other experience, in a different third world country.
Yeah.
And just that thought process, I think, lifted you off to
100%. But the thing is this, right? The way I saw it was, right, I'm homeless, but I can get help. I can still get help. And I ended up going into a hostel. Mate, if that happened in Nigeria, good luck. You're on the streets. You're on your own. You're dead. Like, buried. They don't care. No one's going to come and find you. No one's coming to help you. So even though I was on the streets and it was freezing, I was on the streets, didn't know anyone. I didn't really necessarily want to go back to my foster parents because burden them with what? You know what I mean? They already had their plates full. So burden them with what? I have no other family here in the UK. I can get help. I can get into a hostel to give me a roof over my head. And then the government will give me money to help me like survive so I can eat, right? People need to understand how much of a privilege that is.
Absolutely.
And I'm entitled to that because what? My parents just happened to have me here in 1979. And the thing for me is like, I've got 3 older brothers. I'm the youngest of 4. I feel guilty. I would feel guilty if I didn't make the most of all of the opportunities in front of me, because I know that my brothers would kill and trade places with me to have the opportunity that I'm afforded. So if I squander this, who am I cheating? I'm cheating myself. I'm cheating them. I'm letting them down. I'm 100% letting myself down as a result of it as well. And that's always been one of the reasons why we talked about goals earlier on. I'm always plotting, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Yeah, you get there. You've got to find the next thing. And sometimes it's a negative thing. It's a net negative, especially for my relationship with my missus. She hates it. She's like, okay, so come on, like, chill, stop. Like, you're always moving on. But I don't know how to be any different.
Yeah. I think we just follow success, really, you know, and when is success ever the end? You know, success is something going because we don't measure it by money at all. Suppose when you're looking at money, you can measure money. Mm-hmm. Is it 1 million? Is it 10 million, 20 million? It's a goal or target. But how do you measure success? Because when you get to a point that you want to, there's always something else that you're looking forward to, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, for me, and this may be counterintuitive and completely contrary to what social media is all about, I don't necessarily think it's about a monetary. I don't look at it that way. I don't look at it as though I want to be a millionaire or a trillionaire. That's not my goal. I want to be financially secure. And I think those two things are very, very different. Financially secure could mean 20 million in the bank. It could also mean 500,000 in the bank. It's where you want it to be. And I think because I've seen both sides of the equation, I do have a really acute appreciation for it's not just about the money. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm mature now. I'm 43 years old. When I was like 20 odd, I was doing music. It was all about the Bentley. It's like, dude, I need to get a Bentley GT. I need to be flossing. But that isn't really financial security. That's ostentatious displays, which doesn't actually mean that you're wealthy. It doesn't mean success. You can rent half these things now.
Definitely.
A lot of people do. And you can rent them and be in debt and never have any financial security by it. And so for me, I look at things very, very differently. It's not about a monetary value. It's about, number one, fulfillment for me. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, it is about purpose. I want to leave a legacy.
Definitely.
Right? If I die tomorrow, I want to leave a mark that I was here. I'm writing a book, right? And if you think about my journey, and I have to pin, and this is why, you know, we talked about this earlier, you have to take a step, like pause, look back. When I look back, I'm like, I can laugh now because it's been a beautiful journey. It's been hard. And trust me, when I was in it, it wasn't funny. Yeah. I was like, why couldn't I just be from a wealthy family? But I look back at it now and it's been beautiful. I came back with 50 quid. I've been homeless. I was fostered. I don't really know my family. These things do have consequences for me personally because I've not really dealt with a lot of this stuff. But as a consequence of all of this stuff, I found myself working in banking somehow because a lady gave me a chance, even though I had a shit credit score and I was in a shed load of debt to these banks. I got a job there. Then through working in retail banking.
Which bank did you work for, can I ask?
Oh, I've worked in Nationwide. I worked for RBS, NatWest, Lombard. And through working in, you know, the industry, and going to London to record music and do shows, walking around Canary Wharf, because my mate lived in Canada Wharf, and you can see Canary Wharf, it's like, rah, dude. Like, Pursuit of Happiness is my favourite film, all right? Yes. And I'm like, dude, bro, if you work there, you've made it. And I'm like, okay, that's the step, mentally, Canary Wharf.
Need to get there.
Always in my head. Then to one day be like, yo, there's an interview, we think you'll be great for this job. Where's the interview? Oh, it's 1 Canada Square. And like The Apprentice, the flyover, the pointy building. Okay, which building? 1 Canada Square, what floor? 50th floor, the top floor. Are you mad? To get the interview to go there, then finally start there in that company. And I started as a telephone boy, 28 grand a year in 2012. Not a lot of money. But it was like, in my head, I'm like, bro, if you work here, you've made it. It was a massive, massive opportunity. Because what I then found was, in my role, the guys that I was supporting on the phone who were out on the road, these guys were doing 100, 120, 150, 200, 300 bags a year. And I'm like, I'm on the phone supporting these guys. Like, these guys aren't any more clever than I am. Like, I could do their job easy. 5 years with that company, 5 promotions in 5 years. Brilliant. Got told no lots of time. Made us a lot of money there. When I look back over the journey now, even to what I do now, I started, the YouTube channel, the podcast in 2020. Yeah. to have done so many TV shows and doing TV stints in 2022 and continuing to 2023, then my book comes out with the second largest publisher in the world. My journey is a beautiful one, but you have to pause and look back and appreciate the steps that you've taken. Because unless you're able to do that, you're never going to realize the distance that you've traveled and the things that you've accomplished and the things that you've learned, more importantly. And I think that's very, very important in the social media age. We spoke about earlier the fact that it's not about the destination, it's the journey that matters. And my journey has taught me so much.
On social media these days, obviously I've joined the act with you guys. It's been 12 months. I notice sometimes the more drama that's created, or if somebody comes on one of my lives and starts coming in and debating, obviously even a positive debate, but they've got a difference in opinion, and we're sort of debating, all of a sudden 100, 200, 300 people walk into the room because they want to see the drama. Oh, he said this, he said that. Oh, Sean owned him, or he's disrespecting you now.
Yeah.
All that stuff comes along, and I noticed the room gets full very quickly. And obviously we can hold our own because we know what we're talking about. This is how we got wealthy. We haven't read just books. We've had life experiences. But on the daily, sometimes you only get 30, 40 people watching your lives because it's just like, you know, hey guys, look, let me show you about new base rate. This is what's happened. Your loans are going to get more expensive, but if you've got money in the bank, you're going to earn more interest. And it's just like people want to know, how do I get rich quick and now? So tell me, Peter, how do I get rich quick now?
You can't get rich quick. I mean, go play the lottery. Maybe you might be lucky, but and this is the thing, and this is why I don't like social media, and I'm in it. And look, my channel on YouTube is what I can't even remember we're in the 36 or 39,000 range. I've been on Instagram now for 4 years. I'm at 8,000 followers. I could be doing way bigger numbers, but one of the things that I refuse to do is feed into this narrative of it's a quick win. You can buy this stock and 10x, and it's not true to me. It's not true to the message that I try and deliver. It's not true to the way I see the world. So I refuse to do that kind of content just to grow bigger. Then people be like, oh, you're a fraudster, man. Like, if we can not deliver on the expectation that people would expect from the channel if I brought that kind of stuff out. And unfortunately, people do want the quick way to success. I can't get around that, you know. And if I did more, if I talked about my Tesla or I talked about Rolexes and all this kind of stuff, right? They'll be like, okay, cool. How do I get it? Okay, we can talk about how you get it, but a lot of the time, yeah, you can get it through investments. You still need capital, though. It has to start somewhere. You need to earn some dosh. You need to earn dollar, right? What you then do with that money is what propels you moving forward. And then you talk about entrepreneurship and business, and, you know, investing comes a part of that as well, and making sure that you're not just living in now. It's all about the long term. But these are messages that aren't necessarily popular on social media.
Definitely. And there's something really important you said there was about your brand. It's nothing's worth that brand. One little quick rich scheme and try flog it, sell it to people, lie to people, and then that's it. Your brand's gone.
Yeah. Mate, look, at the end of the day, right, I've spent 3 years, 3 and a little bit, trying to build up to what I'm doing now. And the vision's so much bigger. And this is the thing that I've realized, right? You never know. You think that things are going, you know, it could be better, it could be this, it could be that. But number one, look back, realize the journey that you're on. But you never know who's watching. So, for example, I did a show on Channel 4 this year called Secret Spenders. They emailed me on my website in October of 22.
Okay.
They asked me to be on the show. Why? Because I do Q&As live on YouTube. And someone had been watching me and went, oh, this guy will be good. Bang, opportunity. You never know who's watching. You just don't. You may feel like you're not making progress, but the impact that you're having is so much more far-reaching. And it's even more reason why you have to be authentic. You have to be authentically yourself. I don't pretend to be something I'm not. I'm not a millionaire, and I'm okay with that. But I am very, very financially secure. I have no financial worries whatsoever. And I think that's the most important thing, It's being true to yourself, understanding what your brand is all about, and understanding what you want to leave behind. My purpose is, I'm on social media. I talk about money and investing and all that kind of stuff because it is important. From a legacy point of view, I want to leave a bigger mark than just the content and then just educating people. And that's what I'm going to be working towards. That's my compass. That's my North Star. It doesn't matter what happens in the next 2-3 years. That is always going to guide me. And the funny thing is, a lot of people will chase money, right? I don't chase money. I've now built a brand where people know, right? He doesn't give any BS. He gives it straight down the middle. Yeah. He's almost like a trusted voice. And I know that Pete's going to tell me the truth and not gaslight me or try and, sell something bogus. I have no interest in doing any of that. None whatsoever. That's my brand. And so brands will come to me to work with me. People will ask me to speak at events. People will ask me to do things. I literally don't have to go out and look for business. Business comes to me because of the value of the brand that I've built. And that is the most important thing that you could ever have in business.
Amazing, man. That sounds really, really good. I wanted to ask you, so today you're a financial advisor, is that correct?
I'm a qualified financial advisor, but I stepped away from that to be on social media.
Okay.
Red tape, mate.
So you're full-time in here?
Yeah, full-time in it. And maybe naively so, because I think one of the things that I didn't want to do, and again, this is about my brand, right, and what I wanted to deliver, I didn't want to, first and foremost, create content as a financial advisor because it's red tape. Oh, you can't say that. That's implied advice. Like, I wanted to be free to just say what I want because I know it's the truth, I know that it's right, and I know it's correct without someone being like, yo, we need to tick this box. We need to dot this I and cross this T. I wanted to be completely free. So I stepped away from that. Right. But I did it as COVID was kicking off. So really, to be honest, I was at home. I already started it in January. I didn't know it was going to happen in March. So I'm at home thinking, do I go look for another job? Or do I do the thing that I've been thinking about doing since 2017? It was like, I've already started it. I've got nothing to lose. I've got everything to gain. And I just went for it. Luckily, I had a good bit of money in the bank to kind of help me cover the bills and all that kind of stuff. And, mate, it's been one of the best things to ever happen to me, really, to be honest.
So when is the right time to go self-employed? Like, the people think, there's a lot of risk in this. My security is going to be lost. I'm in a good position or I'm just about paying my bills, but why should I go and do this self-employed? What if it doesn't work? I might be left high and dry. My credit history might be, hit hard. When is the right time to go self-employed?
You need to make sure that you've got some financial backing behind you. So for me, I had a good bit of money in the bank, really, to be honest. And that was the catalyst because I knew I'll be able to pay my mortgage. I've got no debts. I've got no overdraft, no personal loans, no credit cards, no car finance. Everything that I own, apart from the mortgage. Very, very small mortgage. I could overpay the mortgage, but I'd rather I have that. It's cool. It's sweet, right? You need to have some financial footing to help you keep the roof over your head. Ideally, that should be your foundation. But other than that, if you're waiting for things to be 100% perfect, they will never be perfect. You're always going to find, because there's a risk element to it, you're always going to find some reason not to do it. Yeah. And trust me, I know. Like, I should have started YouTube in 2017. Yeah. The channel would probably be way, way bigger. I'd have way more influence. I would have been one of the first ones to do it. But guess what? I was in a corporate job where I'm earning, 100, 120, 150 a year. Golden handcuffs. Yeah. It's like, am I really going to give this up? Yeah. What if it doesn't work out?
Even I kicked myself a little bit, Peter, because I only started in 22.
Yeah.
At the start in January. I've grown the TikTok up to nearly 25,000 followers. I resonate more with that crowd, or maybe the algorithm's a little bit more, allowing. Only got like 1,500 on Instagram and maybe 300 subscribers currently, but we've only done 10 podcasts. And, I don't really fully look at that because I know who I am. I know what I am. I know what I am doing. Yeah. Other people don't need to look at me like a number, but when they find out who I am or what I'm doing, it's going to take care of itself. Yeah. But I always say, like, the TikTokers other financial people who started in 2020 when I was like, I'm not getting on that TikTok because I'll get addicted like the rest of them. I didn't even think about making the content. I wasn't even thinking about, well, actually, I know more than that, actually, and I have something to say. I can call myself an expert.
Yeah.
I've been an estate agent. I've bought houses. I've been a builder. You know, I've worked in the bank, and I know about the lending. Well, that's what you call an expert, and the proof in the pudding is the eating.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the confidence until I was like, you know, I was like, I'm missing something here, and I'm not getting fulfilled with just being a portfolio landlord anymore, because you do get a freedom of your time. Also, you get money coming in every single month. You've been a really good builder, so there's no maintenance to do. Everything's a tick, tick, tick. Occasionally, you got a plumber that needs to go out to fix a simple tap, get the stopcock, switch it off, quickly couple of nuts and bolts. That's 75 quid, Mr. Land, and it's done. It's like, so what do I do in my time? Like, all right, we'll repurpose some of these houses into care homes, and okay, we've done that now, and he's got that for 5-year lease, and they're doing the maintenance now as well, so it's even less work. So it's like, so I've clocked the game. What do I do? And I was like, you've got to take this to social media. But then I always say, imagine had I started in 2020, I see people with 150,000 following, because I've noticed every step of the way the algorithm also tightening up. Stuff that was going viral, 30, 40, 50,000 views is now just about hitting 2,000, 3,000. And then, I don't know if you've noticed this October on TikTok again, it's tightened up again. It's like, okay, so you got to give it more and more because... And you've got to understand less about what you're sort of even talking about and more about psychology.
See, this is the thing that I definitely haven't mastered yet, because I am on TikTok, but I don't really give it that much. And the reason for that was because at the very, very beginning of this, and this is where you get into like business and needing to evolve. At the very, very beginning of this, and this is where it will come full 60, right? So I tested the theory of what I wanted to do on Instagram. Right, this was in 2019. So I was like, I don't know if anyone's really going to pay attention to like me talking about interest rates and mortgages and, you know, investing and this stock and that stock. I didn't really know whether people would kind of key into it. So I tested it on Instagram, and I did 60-second videos on Instagram every single day for a year on different topics, every single day for a year. It grew, really receptive. Right. And in the end, what I realized was, okay, I'm a qualified financial advisor, qualified mortgage advisor. I want to get into the detail of it. And I was like, okay, 60-second videos isn't really where you're going to be able to do that. So the YouTube is an extension of that, where I get into the detail. But the flip side is now with algorithms, short attention spans, you have to be quick, to the point.
People want to be spoon-fed within 30 seconds.
Exactly.
Even.
And to a certain extent, for the stuff that you really need to know, particularly when it comes to investing, you can't get that in 60 seconds. You need more time to be able to digest it and take it in, unfortunately. And so the YouTube channel has been dedicated to that long form content. And I've intentionally done it in a way that if you're interested, this is the place for you. If you want the quick stuff, I'm not the guy for you. Because I think you need to be able to understand, number one, what your product and your service is, what you're offering, what your value is. My value is I've worked for investment houses, discretionary fund managers. I'm a financial advisor. I understand this stuff because I've been around it quite some time. I want to get what's here out into videos that people can practically use. But ironically, talking about evolution, now it's like, hold up, it's about reels. Like, because like you're posting pictures on Instagram. No, you're getting nothing. It's all about reels. It is about that short, even on YouTube now, it's shorts that are really blowing up, right? Short form content. And so what I started in 2019 is coming back round to the short form content again. But I'm always going to do the long form stuff because people need the long form content.
I suppose the reels are the hook. You know, if you're interested, then come and watch the long form. You know, and that's how people resonate with you. And what I normally do is I make some content, 30 seconds to a minute or minute and a half, and it goes out on my TikTok first of all because they appreciate me the most. Thank you, all the TikTokers out there. It then goes to my Instagrammers, and Instagram you can do a little bit more. You can put certain links and takes people. So when you put a certain little thing that you said like on a podcast like this and it was really good, you can put a link to say go straight to the YouTube. I then go on to Facebook Reels. I don't know how new or old this is, but I've got nearly 1,000 audience there as well, and then we go over to the YouTube Shorts. So I think it's very important.
You've got a system worked out.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a system, but I'm just like, I've got this piece of content. It's taken me an hour or two to do it. So I'm going to try to create most value out of this.
Yeah.
I'm going to send it to my followers here, 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 and here. And a lot of the time, I don't even look at the views on this or how many new followers, because I think we also have a duty of care that we've got like 30,000 people. You've got, 40, 50, 60,000 across all your platforms. You have a duty of care
100%.
to these existing followers who are
100%,
supporting you. And so let's not get too anxious about this when we don't get views and stuff. And we just got to sometimes say, hey, look, I'm going to be making content for my existing audience,
So let me be real with you, right? So especially on YouTube, one of the things that like social media is great. And it's great that you have a lot of people out there talking about this stuff. But on YouTube and TikTok and across social media, I find some content sometimes and I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, number one, it's incorrect. And it's like, okay, there needs to be some sense checking in certain areas, of, especially in the financial space. It feels as though anybody comes into financial space because the CPM on YouTube is massive.
CPM means?
In terms of the cost per click and cost per view,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Huge. It is one of the most lucrative areas on YouTube. If you get into the finance sector on YouTube, right, and you're able to smash the views, I know people are doing 10, 15K a month on views on YouTube. Wow. And it's like the content's okay. Some of it's incorrect. Like a lot of these guys are just talking a load of just nonsense, just opinion, not really based in fact. And it's like, it can be a little bit frustrating because you're like, okay, it's incorrect, but people are still paying attention. So it's kind of good in that way, but they're getting wrong information. And so I think for me, it's kind of like, okay, information is really, really key. Making sure that it's correct, that it's right, that it's not going to do any harm. Because going back to that duty of care, despite how much I hate the word influencer, I am an influencer. And despite how many times I'd be like, look, this is not financial advice. This is not what you should go and do. But in this kind of scenario, you need to consider this, this, this. And the outcome, depending on the mix of these scenarios, might be this. People go do it anyway. And I know that.
Definitely. I think, look, we got to always be wary of what we're saying because it could be a financial impact on somebody who's the end user. There's people who there are very easily persuaded. They could be your biggest fans, but we shouldn't take advantage of that. There's people watching and go, he told me that, and then it doesn't work out and they can lose everything. And you're actually responsible for that. So we should like sort of take some sort of duty or care of that. There's an influence out there, Andrew Tate. He has changed his approach recently, but sometimes they're taking videos of what he said even 10 years ago, and people think that's the latest thing. A little snippet, clip it. I don't know if he's right or wrong. Everyone has their own opinions, but they are now taking out of sort of context something he said in 2013, which is 10 years ago. I think he was about 25 then, and sometimes you have a different energy when you're young.
You mature, you change as a person, And
who thinks they're gonna be like? Maybe he did, and you shouldn't enter anything unless you think you're gonna be the best. But did he really think at the age of 25, when he had no wealth, that I'm going to be the most Googled man in the whole world on Piers Morgan in America, and the whole world is going to be watching me? And this is why we always say you must be afraid of tomorrow, because tomorrow is coming. And people are going to say, you said this, and now you're on this podium, and you got there by earning dirty money or doing this. That's what we have to be accountable of. And there's so many people just putting so much content, as you said, and saying whatever they feel like and what they want. And they're not thinking about the consequences.
The consequences and the impact on brand. Right. If I took every penny that was offered me, I would have earned way more than I've earned on YouTube. I've had companies offer me 10, 15 grand for video. And like my channel doesn't necessarily garner tens of thousands of views. If anything, on a good video for me, I get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000. That's it. Offer me 10, 15,000 pounds for one video to talk about what? Oh, it's this crypto, it's this coin, it's all that. And I'm like, actually, no. I'm not going to do that, because one thing that I have noticed is for the people who do follow me, they trust what I have to say because of my expertise and my experience. And I don't, look, I'll give you bad news. I'll tell you, you need to be careful with that.
Yeah.
Not because I want to tell you the right thing and sugarcoat things. No, because in my head, it's wrong. Be careful. If you're going to go do it, look, these are the cons, these are the pros. If this happens, hey, look, sweet. But there's a bigger likelihood that the opposite is going to happen. And look, just be sure that you know what you're doing. That trust means more to me than 10, 15 grand for one video that then stays on the channel
100.
and then can come back and roost and completely destroy everything that I've worked to build and everything that I am looking to build in the future. It's not worth it. I probably said goodbye to £500,000
Wow.
in 2021 of just videos like, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? Can you do that? I'm very, very selective of who I choose to work with. I had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, I don't want to say anything that can identify who they are. At a meeting, and they're like, oh, we really love what you're doing. We want to align with you. We'll give you £500,000 right now just to align with you.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, £500,000 is a lot of money.
It's
good
a lot
money.
of money.
Cash, by the way.
Yeah, you could buy a house outright in London.
Yeah.
Or maybe two. Put 250 down on two houses. You'll be earning the best part of a perpetuity of 3-4 grand a month.
Yeah.
And it's going up in value and you're all right.
Yeah.
But your integrity said
But
no.
it's cash, right? So I'm kind of like, what does it mean? It means now I've got a tie to you. And that basically, from one of my followers or subscribers' point of view, may dent the fact that actually I speak about everything.
Yeah.
I give the pros and cons of everything. I don't want to be tied down to one specific brand. I'll work with brands on specific things as long as education is at the forefront of what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring people on the journey and they have a really good service and a good brand reputation. I'll do some work with them, but I don't say, guys, go and use these ones now. These are the people you should use. No, we use it as an educational point of view. That really matters to me. And so it's very, very important, especially on social media, because it is going to be the way forward now. Yeah. You have to understand what your purpose is, because if you don't, you'll get tied and attracted to a lot of stuff that in the end, it won't do any service to you or the people that you're trying to service.
Definitely. I can see what you're going for here. You know, you don't want to be on anyone else's platform. You're a platform yourself and you offer a lot. You've got books, you've got videos, educational, speaking events, etc. I can see what you're trying to create. It's beautiful. So let's talk about money.